All right, hello. Sorry, I'm have some technical difficulties there. Really weird. All right, it's John again. Hello. Got another haunted house review, this time for the Chippewa Lake Slaughterhouse. Now, given that Chippewa Lake is way out in the sort of boonies, and it's by Lodi, which has a certain history of certain people living there that are colorful, but less than colorful, shall we say. And I'm not talking about any sort of CCR Fogerty song here. I really wasn't expecting much. I was expecting, quite frankly, to go in there probably hating it, being really annoyed with really loud, crappy music and nothing but I'm gonna get this and dirty and stuff. And now there was a lot of that, but it was better done than I thought. I was actually pleasantly surprised by the whole thing. Um, I'm trying to just kind of walk through timeline of it. Not well lit in terms, especially in the beginning part. I mean, the sign that they have is kind of easily missed if you're coming up on it and the car's right there. I mean, it's real low on the ground, and you can kind of miss it. And when you get in, they don't really have like the lightsaber flashlights. It's just flashlights. And so if you go, you have to kind of keep going down. When you get out of your car, you have to go walk down the main sort of paved road down the center, um, which isn't really well signed. And the only thing that's over off to the side is this path, and it looks like that's kind of where you're supposed to go. You can't really see the sign on it very well at night. And apparently it says exit, and that's where everything comes out of, but it looks like that's where you're supposed to go, but it's not. So you go down the main thing. It was kind of neat. There's a couple abandoned cars. There's some skeletons on like cross stuff and everything. That's kind of cool. And then it's just sort of, oh, there's a building right here. And the building right there is where you want to get the tickets. Again, not really like a sign that says, hey, look, tickets. Um, but that was, that got sorted out quickly. And then you go into, and there was literally two people in front of me, and they were getting fast pass stuff. There was no one else there, so I'm not going to spend the extra $10. Um, but they make you, regardless, you can easily walk around one way or the other, but they make you walk through each and every turn of this thing. It's not regular sort of, this high, whatever railing. It's full on actual like stockyard railing. And they make you go through every bit of it. And the little pavilion's not that big, but it takes you a while to get through because you have to walk through every bit. And there's like this sort of like tinny, old time sort of vinyl record music kind of playing and stuff like that, like Victrola type things, which is kind of neat. And the lights blink a little bit, and it does kind of build up a little bit of an atmosphere, which is kind of taken down by the guy walking the catwalk with the megaphone and the stun gun thing. They're yelling at you and barking and making jokes and derp. It's like, okay, this is kind of what I was expecting. Okay. And given I look how I look and I'm by myself, of course that, gets a certain amount of attention. Um, so, they had the fast pass couple go first. And then I did kind of feel they made me wait a little too long. I don't know if that's because the other guy who came up had a little thingy to communicate with. So I don't know if maybe they took a long time getting through a certain part, and that's when like the cutoff is, and you can send someone else. I don't know. Or the Barker guy was blocking stuff. I don't know. But it was like, all right, I'm waiting here too long now. It's just me. They've been gone for a while. Let's go. But they did a thing, and I noticed this. The guy who sort of took my ticket in yellow, sort of long sleeve jumpsuit onesie. Come here, bud. Come here. Hard hat. The little smartwatch thing he had sort of ruined the effect. But he had this mask on that was sort of plain and affectless. And there were several guys throughout the entire thing who were dressed the same in the jumpsuit and the hard hat, which was, you get the idea, sort of probably the uniform of the place. but they had a similar mask. And if they did that on purpose, it wasn't just, we've got these masks here, take them, put this on. If they did it on purpose, it was actually really cool because it gave the effect of this one guy, creature, whatever, is following you or is following you and popping up in these weird places. A couple people did it super well, where it was sort of like they were kind of there and still, and then you checked on something else, and then they were gone. So it was almost like, oh, he's going to hurry up and meet you at your next thing or something. So like that was actually kind of neat. Again, I don't know if that was what their point was. I kind of hope it was because it was neat. So not great signs and the flow kind of stuff. Um, so there did seem to be a story. I'm not 100% sure what the story was. But this space was clearly some sort of industrial thing. Slaughterhouse, whatever, I don't know. It was clearly an industrial building to begin with. Um, and it seemed like everyone was kind of working, and then a thing happened one day, and whatever a thing was just made everyone go crazy or transformed them mad and or mutated them or something in a way. It was unclear. It was like they wanted to have a story, but they weren't sure which story to go by. However, it did allow them to use the space really cool. I have to like it was something that struck me multiple times. Um, and I mean, it's a little bit different than Factory of Terror in Canton because that's a much, much larger place. And they're doing a whole hell of a lot more with it. Instead of having one grandiose thing, they've got like 5 things throughout and all this other stuff. But it almost kind of had a similar thing where they're using kind of what they had to an advantage. And they even had like full on school bus sort of thing and actual cars. They weren't running, but they made them like they had something making them sound like they were running and like smoke coming out. So this stuff was still going on. Sorry, I'm getting over something. And but it was really, really cool use of the space. There were some spaces that were, you walk in, it was a big open space, and the whole scene was set up. Like one that was neat was, it had like a TV on fuzz, and like a couch, and like some weird altar thing, and like these beds that were like chicken wire fenced in. And some space was, and some of the bigger spaces they would just kind of corral you and make you kind of zigzag through some of these with like the barrels or these crate boxes or something. So the big space they made a small space, um, and really made big turns. And some of the big spaces they kept big spaces and just set up scenes and kind of corralled certain things in that way. Or you could see other parts of it and like look back and forth. So I do have to say I thought that they did a good job with the use of space. I mean, that was probably the thing that jumped out the most for me. Was for what they had, the setup was really cool. Well, really cool. I don't know what really cool. I thought they did a good job with it. There's even a part like towards the end. There's almost it looks like maybe a shipping and receiving little bit, and there's a bunch of like abandoned cars through there. And then you go through the first of two sort of shipping crates, those ones you see on trains or boats. And the guy in the first one actually did a really cool job. There are some people like later on that had like these weird like sacks over their face, almost like Jason in the first two Friday the 13th movie. Yeah, just like a sack of eye holes, and baggy, dirty clothes, with like the flannel and this stuff. So I was like, okay. Um, But the one guy on that, when you walk through the container, he did a really cool job, like jumping up and down on it and making these different sounds and all this. So you really got an experience in that container. The second one, not as neat of an experience, kind of okay, whatever. First guy was kind of cool with it. There was a few people who got too close, It's too close. And the ones that get literally right here and won't let you pass. And I gotta tell you, there's not a lot of mouthwash going on with that, which is not ideal. That that part wasn't ideal. But there were a couple cool things where some of the actors kind of led you, like they'd show up at one point, like kind of come here and go off, and then show up somewhere else and stuff. So a couple of people did kind of a neat job with pulling you through. And two of the three, I sound at least from the sounds. Well, I know the two I'm talking about were definitely young women, and I think there was at least one, maybe two other women actors that I could at least hear. There might have been other ones, but they just weren't making noises or they were behind something I couldn't tell. But the two young women I'm thinking of did a good job still building kind of a scene. One of them, again, I mean, it's supposed to be a slaughterhouse. There's a lot of dead stuff hanging down from ceilings. In fact, one room was actually kind of cold, which was neat. It was like, oh, you're going through the freezer thing. I was like, that's smart. But the first one was sort of like, oh, help me, help me. She looked all messed up and stuff like that. Wasn't screaming, help me, wasn't grabbing on you, was just sort of following you and seemed really sort of desperate. And like that was cool. And then the other young lady was dressed all in like this black gown and like this big hat, and kind of a fetusy thing going on that she was holding. And it was like, oh, they get cold quickly. But she didn't yell. She just kind of followed you at like a slow pace, kept everything quiet. I was like, all right, cool. That's cool. Thank you for juxtaposing people slamming in doors and screaming in my literal, like right here in my ear. Um, and then I think that was cool. And then I think my favorite actual just room in general was one of the sort of cult based rooms. So this is why I'm not sure if something mutated, there was some cult that changed stuff, made people go crazy. There's one room you go in, you see like this mirror. It's like written in blood on the wall, something, something to cleanse you all. There's like fake candles, a couple other mirrors. And it's like it's a different sort of room. Like I think there's like sewing machine stuff in there and then like fake body parts. And like the guy in it had like two scythes, two small one-handed scythes, and like this weird sort of like animal face mask with like these deer horns and stuff. And he just kind of built um, the mood of it really. And that might have been my favorite one. Like that was cool. There was a couple things that were really cool. It had a couple of those. Well, they showed it a little bit in one, but they had one that you walk through where they got the thin laser that's about hip height or waist height, and then the smoke underneath it, so it looks like it's like a flat layer of like the swamp smoke or something or mist that you're going through, and then someone pops up. I do like that. That's cool. That's neat for me, and they did a good job with that. And I think there was one other. I was like, hey, that's cool. Aside from like the plain faced person that looked like they were following you. Uh, cult room. Da, 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 da. So yeah, the chainsaws increased as time went on. Almost everyone had a twangy sort of thing. Again, sick and tired of chainsaws and redneck hillbillies, dirty mutiny sort of things screaming at you. But all in all, I'm trying to think if there was anything else that stuck in my mind. So I got used to space, the cult room, those other kind of two people. Some of the people did a good job kind of setting things up. And okay, yeah, oh yeah, and after the shipping, between shipping containers, there was kind of like a foresty walk thing too. So you had most of it was through the building, a little bit outside through sort of car park shipping and receiving, some foresty, but another sort of shipping thing, and they kind of spit you out by a place you can buy shirts. They didn't even really have, it was just sort of everything looked like it was kind of lumped. People just sort of standing there around talking, and like the shirts were all just sort of lumped there. There really wasn't a display. It's like it seemed like they put effort into setting up this building along a theme and manipulating the flow and doing kind of a decent job with that. But everything else about running the business was kind of like, whatever. So I think they're sort of new, so that might be something that they just need to work on and get more practice with. Hopefully, I don't know. Since there were about, I'm gonna liberally say that there were about 3 houses worth of haunted house there. Comparing kind of what I went through. I try to go. I try and go kind of slow, especially since it really didn't seem there were people crowding behind me. So I really try to like experience the whole thing. And again, a lot of slams, a lot of shit in your ear and stuff like that. But I'm just trying to pace out what I walked and then the extra stuff outside. I'm going to liberally say about a 3 normal haunted house and like 3 floors of like haunted schoolhouse or laboratory. Maybe a tiny bit more just because the way that they plan the flow. Maybe 3 of houses in like 7 floors or something like that. Um, maybe 2.5, 3-ish, close, maybe not. I don't know, Factory of Terror, some of their stuff's actually kind of bigger. So it might be 2 if you're thinking Factory of Terror sort of thing. Trying to compare this. I know it's a geographically a very limited sort of comparison, given the general reach of YouTube, shall we say. Not saying everyone over the world is watching this, but comparatively towards the potential for audience, it is geographically limited what I'm trying to do right now. I understand. So I'm just trying to base it on what I've gone through for us. Maybe liberally 3 haunted houses worth of haunted house. And so honestly, especially since it's the walkway in and the way out and some of the stuff really isn't super professional, they could probably stand dropping the price a couple bucks. Honestly, even the speed pass price, instead of adding $10, maybe 5 to 8, dropping the regular price down a little bit. And honestly, I can't remember if I said it with Bloodview. They need to probably drop their price too. I think they're trying to keep. Oh, it's like all these other places are charging, 20, 25, 30 bucks for the thing. Yeah, well, all these other places are doing a lot more than you are. There's a lot more going on. So I think that's something that needs to be taken into account with some of these places is you can't charge Schoolhouse, Laboratory, Factory of Terror prices when they've been around for 40, 50 years or whatever, like 40 years or whatever. Have got this stuff down. They got signs. They got stuff set up. Their merch is laid out professionally. Like, these people know what they're doing. Forest of Screams, these are the people who've done 7 floors. They know how to set their stuff up. They know what they're doing. They have things, even though it's only 3 sort of things, it's a lot for those 3, so the price is probably okay with that. But Bloodview and this Chippewa Slaughterhouse, you need to scale back your price a little bit. You're not delivering the same thing these other places are. But all in all, I mean, if the way I'm kind of thinking about scoring this is the way I judge tournaments for like Tai Chi and martial arts. So the way you have it is, if your beginner, your intermediate, and your advanced divisions all have a score range. So just to make this easy on myself, if I'm judging an advanced division, the score range might be between 7 and 9, 7.0 and 9.0. So if they do awesome, they might get a 9.0. If they suck, 7.0. The way I was taught to judge tournaments and score this is the way I'm scoring this. So you start off giving them the middle. So if I'm doing 5 skulls, everyone automatically gets a 2.5 before I even enter into the thing. And then if it's sort of does kind of better than my expectations, that's when you bump it up. If it's like, oh, this is actually worse than I thought, then we pop that back down. This is a little bit better than I thought, so I'm willing to go three skulls on this one for the rating. Um, I mean, I think physically it was kind of neat. I think if they can kind of change it up a little bit. There were some other rooms, like one was like an accounting room with like a desk and like the old crappy carpet and like paper everywhere and stuff. I think if they, I understand they're going for like the theme of the place, but I don't know, maybe cater to a little other different sort of scenes than just like this one kind of thing. Well, it's because again, it's unclear what the story is supposed to be, whether it was madness or this cult or mutiny stuff or what was it that caused this vague story to happen. Um, so it's like I think they have a lot there that could be cool. Um, they just need to ramp it up, amp it up, and sort of grow up a little bit with it, if that makes sense. So 3 out of 5 skulls, Chippewa Lake Slaughterhouse in Chippewa Lake, Medina County, Ohio. So yeah, give credit where credit's due. Better than I thought it would be. So yeah, that's me for tonight. Like, subscribe, the bell thing if that's still a thing, and I will see you soon. Bye.